Hello! Today I'd like to talk about the use of imagery and metaphor in vocal coaching. Our minds and bodies are truly fascinating, especially when it comes to learning how to improve as singers. We're working on a lot of things that we can't see. There are some things we can see evidence of, like movement connected to breath, alignment, and looking for tension. That is, if we can commit to looking in a mirror. But I know that isn't always available or convenient. As an aside, I'd certainly recommend more mirror work. Now, when we're babies and children, it is very accepted that we learn by experimentation and by doing. If you've ever spent time with an infant, you can probably remember the intense look of concentration as they discover that they have control over their hands. But then they need to figure out how to replicate what they just did to successfully reach for and grab something, or to hold themselves up with great effort in a sitting position as muscles both strengthen and learn to coordinate. Of course, then we grow up. We become self-conscious, we adopt a fear of trying new things, or rather failing at new things, especially in front of other people. And we're pushed through a system that develops a reliance on academics, often putting theory over practice and experience. Now, those of you who have spent time with me know that I love the science behind things. I love the how and the why, but as we improve our voices, I wholeheartedly believe that the balance of imagery and metaphor to anatomy and science needs to be an also-and rather than an either-or approach. Here's where I need to acknowledge that we all learn differently. That said, to oversimplify what we know about learning theory, the more ways we can connect with information, the easier it will be to assimilate it and to put it to use. So, I've collected here a whole bunch of weird things that you've heard coaches say, and I'm going to attempt to translate a few of them, to break the code for you. Alright, some of you have submitted your favorite or most confusing coaching phrases. Let's see if my assistant will bring my bag of questions to me. Ah, yes. Thank you, Celesta Cat. Alright. Ah, yes. Sing purple. I've seen variations of this. Red velvet, blue, lots of colors, textures. These semantics engage the creative parts of our minds. They work by allowing us to experiment with different tone qualities. When we're talking about changing our tone, we're talking about adjusting our resonating space or possibly our mix of head voice, chest voice, or the like. In this case, when I hear colors or textures that are generally dark or rich, we can translate that into having a great depth of tone that has very even resonance with a balanced spectrum of overtones. Experiment with balancing backspace, making sure that the throat and back of the mouth have some expansion, but also checking to make sure that the tongue is neutral, forward, and out of the way. Now, I'd like you to hit pause if you'd like and experiment with singing different colors. Think red, blue, bright yellow, or textures like spiky or velvet or smooth. What are you doing differently? How can you describe what you're doing, maybe using different words, or describe the sound you're making? Give it a try. Alright, what's next? Oh yeah, breathe or sing from your... Here's a short list of places we've been asked to breathe from. Belly, pelvic floor, back, various words for gonads, and other artistically descriptive lower regions. Nose belt, abdomen, through the back of your neck, through your wings, and more. That's a pretty creative list, especially since none of those things that were mentioned were lungs. But as we know, breathing is complex. In general, we want to keep our focus lower. Lower rib cage, abdomen, sides, even low back. Through the bottom of the trunk of our body, maybe even thinking about recruiting our leg muscles so that we can easily engage the muscles that will help us the most without adding too much tension. In this case, sometimes when we think about something like our rib cage or shoulders, we tend to add tension to them, so putting our focus lower on allowing for lower movement that includes relaxation and expansion will help set us up for success when we ask a fairly extensive list of muscle chain reactions to respond. It's often much more effective to focus on just one place, like saying, breathe into your lower back, so that we don't inadvertently add tension by attempting to place our focus too many places at once. So go ahead and hit pause and experiment with the sensation of breathing to or from different places. What works best for you? What gives you most support? What makes you sound the best? Actually, one of my favorites. Don't make bass. This is a phrase I've heard and used myself, directed at our lower voices, or maybe for any voice when we're singing towards the bottom of our range. This is where we attempt to create a tone based on a misinterpretation of what we think low voices should sound like. We need to remember that when we listen to someone else sing, it's very different from the sound that we hear when we sing. We tend to put on this tonal mantle of what we think a low voice should sound like our very best Johnny Cash impression. And it burns, 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 the ring of fire, the ring of fire. So we do these strange things and we add artifacts to our voice to trick ourselves into thinking that we're adding resonance or character, when often what we're really doing is adding tension or creating an odd manufactured sound. I'd challenge you to grab a recorder and sing something in your low range. First, try to imitate low singers and create the sound that would be a stereotypical low bass or contralto sound. Then just try to use your very best voice, your normal voice, but just at the bottom of your range. Making sure you're using some expanded resonance, but also not allowing that sound to feel like it's falling back. Again, making sure that the tongue is not bunching up, it's neutral, it's out of the way. We want those low notes to have plenty of focus in them, and we don't want to manufacture an inauthentic sound. We just want to free up the voice in all ranges so our tone doesn't change so much throughout different registers. Okay, let's do one more today. Sing into the bathroom, not the living room, of your face. Okay, here's another one that deals primarily with resonance and how we can change the shape of our resonating chamber, our mouth and our throat with a little nod to tongue position. Think about the surfaces in a bathroom. They're hard, they reflect sound. In this case, I'm assuming this living room space is carpeted with soft furniture and lots of surfaces that will absorb sound. In part, this can relate to the first example that I gave of singing different colors. We're just making adjustments to our timbre. This hard or soft surface suggestion can actually be a fairly literal parallel, but I'm going to take it too far for illustrative purposes. What surfaces in your mouth are already hard? Hard palate? Teeth? What can you do to make the other surfaces in your resonating space more reflective? What if we invite the muscles in our faces and throats to do the same? Go ahead and make some weird faces with hard surfaces and sing something like he. Now there's probably way too much tension in what we just did. I'd be willing to bet that that sound is overly bright. Maybe we want some brightness. We definitely took that too far. Now let's let everything soften to the point that it's all kind of saggy and lazy, like singing into a pillow. He. Asking for a bright or pingy bathroom sound can also encourage us to make sure that we don't have any excess air in the tone, like he, or to make sure we're not singing lazy. Again, this is kind of a subjective request that can produce a shimmering sound if we interpret it the right way. But if we're not careful, a request like that can cut out important resonance and lead to tension, like in our first example. As with any of the other examples, just like a child learning to keep their balance, we personally want to experiment until we like the result. Try something, go too far. Try something, don't go far enough. You are in charge of making sure that your tone is the best it can be under any given circumstance and metaphor. But we have to allow ourselves some room to play and imagine. Often, this will require us to try a whole bunch of things until we like what we sound like. And then we just need to reverse engineer it so we can do it again. As always, I recommend working with a vocal coach or teacher to make sure you're developing healthy habits as you experiment with each technique. Feel free to reach out to me if you'd like to schedule a lesson online or a clinic or coaching session for your group. Let me know in the comments, what are some odd things you've heard from coaches or teachers or instructors? What worked? What confused you? Let me know what phrases you'd like to hear me talk about. Don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel, spread the word, and I'll see you next time. Yes, you're a good assistant. Thank you. You'd be better if you had thumbs.